Yeah, I think so. Maybe have both.
Right, that's what I was saying, yeah, that we would maybe go question by question, and then the whole thing unabridged.
Yeah.
Maybe cutting this part out.
Right, yeah. This would be a good time to say something that we may want to cut out.
Yeah, or just do a jump cut.
Yeah.
Change camera angle and then...
This is Libby Road and the Sound Epistemology podcast. On this episode, Rupert and I examine number 4 on the Street Espistemology survey, the survey that opens up the doors to exploring our relationship with truth. We thought this might be a shorter episode because we offer the same answer, but as you'll see, we cover lots of important topics. Let's jump in to number 4.
Number 4, people create words and define their meaning.
Huh?
Strongly agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean that strongly.
So are you
I have an
open to
absolute
being
belief.
mistaken about that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm... people create words and define their meaning. I don't know how I could be wrong about that. So I think I'm not... I think I am...
You're closed-minded about it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if closed-minded is the correct description.
Yeah. I'm trying to go as extreme as I can
Yeah,
so that I
so-
know what the limit is.
Right. Yeah, and I appreciate that. I don't see how I could be wrong about that. That's why I rarely would say strongly agree, and that's why in this case I say that I strongly agree that people create words and define their meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly people have created words before we came along, so you and I aren't necessarily doing the creating of the words, so I think I would agree with that part of the statement. But define their meaning all the time, because people misunderstand each other all the time.
It's almost two questions.
It's almost two questions.
You know, people create words and people define the words, people define words, or people define the meaning of words would be the second part of the question.
Yeah.
So there is no information that you could acquire that would cause you to lower your confidence in this particular statement?
That people define their meaning? I don't think so, because it's truth. People do define their meaning. Everyone interprets them differently. Everyone defines for themselves what the word means, whether they're right or wrong or not. Absolutely, that's up for debate. But I think it's fair to absolutely say that people define the words that have been created to suit their own needs, to suit their own purposes. And I want to be open. I do want to be open to being shown some evidence that that's not the case. I'm just with a statement like this. I'm not sure how there could be anything that would. And maybe that's unfair of me to, just because I don't know or I can't imagine what would possibly change my mind to be. I'm open to. I suppose I am. I'm definitely open to being shown that this is a statement that me strongly agreeing with is foolhardy, and I should maybe just agree with it. But this is certainly a case where I would say I have absolutely no reason to think that there's evidence that could be shown to me that would make it so that people do not define their meaning. Because everyone does it.
This question, or this statement is probably, at least in the top 2 or 3 that I'm most confident in.
Yeah, okay.
I'm probably at about a 99% about this.
Mm-hmm.
It would take a lot of additional information to convince me that I shouldn't be as confident in that. It would take a lot. It would take a lot to change my mind about this.
What would raise your confidence?
What would cause me to go from 99 to 100?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I'm sitting from a position of, I don't see how I could possibly be wrong about this. I'm curious what would take you from where you are, where you're very, very confident, but you don't have you're not sitting with a position of, there's no way I could be wrong about this. So is there something that would take you up to 100%?
I don't think that I would be honest if I were to say something with 100% confidence.
And you mean
So,
that from a broader sense, not just as this question,
yeah,
not just as it pertains to this question, but in
Yeah.
general.
globally,
Yeah.
globally, I feel like it would be dishonest of me to say that I'm 100% certain about anything.
Yeah.
That doesn't answer your question, though. It doesn't answer your question of what would cause me to go from 99 to 100 in confidence about
there
people
anything?
creating words. I'd have to think about it. I'd have to think about it more. Whenever I say, well, I can't imagine it being any other way, that sounds like bad reasoning to me. Like that shouldn't cause me, that shouldn't sway me one way or the other. Because just because I can't imagine something,
Mm-hmm.
that has no effect on whether it's possible or not.
Okay.
So I guess my answer to your actual question is I would have to think long and hard about something that would cause me to be more confident in this statement.
Yeah, and I think your 99% on this is not far off from my 99.999996%. Maybe even a few extra nines before the 6.
We're pretty in lockstep about this particular statement.
Yeah, it's just that you have a little bit more. I don't think in general, I just mean when it comes to this question, for some reason I've got a bit more arrogance about saying I can't be wrong about this, which you pointed out in the statement you just made about, I can't remember how you worded it, but you had just said you wouldn't feel comfortable, you would question the logic or the reasoning of that statement.
Yeah, I would get an icky feeling as if I was not being honest if I were to say X is true and there's no way I can be wrong about it.
Yeah, and I like that. I think that's interesting that you have a open, even when convinced otherwise, where I think that's part of what my practice is guiding me through, is being able to get to more of a place like that, instead of thinking in such definites,
Black and white, kind of.
such black and whites, to be open to there's always grays. And
Why does that sound attractive to you, being less black and white and more gray?
Yeah, because I believe I bring more suffering into my experience because of that black and white thinking. I have done a lot of different times, and even with my practice I think I continue to do so, but I'm reprogramming my pathways to be more open, to be more curious about information that I might not have. And this is a perfect example of where my practice has maybe not explored, because here I am saying, yeah, I can't imagine there's anything you could bring to me, and I genuinely can't.
Right.
But I feel like it's a shame that I can't say 99%, where really I genuinely sitting here feel authentically that, yeah, I cannot imagine, I cannot conceive being, having evidence that people create words and define their meaning is a statement that isn't an absolute truth. Because I've seen so many examples of it. I've seen it so much in my own life and in miscommunications that I've either observed or been a part of. And so maybe that's why, maybe because I have an emotional attachment to remembering misunderstandings and just how wrong they can go, that I make a statement that's so definite like that, because I know the definite consequences of definitions being out of alignment with each other and people behaving according to their definition of words and being pretty stuck with them. But even that, there's room for people to grow and change. And so,
because somebody could walk up and say, well, I can't imagine such and such being any other way, and they could be mistaken.
yeah, as could I, by saying that. And I'm open to being mistaken about that. It's just I'm not very open to
Right.
just because of the specific question that we're talking about. And again, that's why defining the scale was so important, because there's not many things that I would put out on the line like that. And you said this is one of your top 3 that you most strongly believe
In this survey.
in this survey. Yeah.
So, I think we kind of touched on with your black and white part, the term, what is it? Dichotomy. Do you think there are any true dichotomies?
What's your definition?
Well, I guess, so you were saying that you're trying to move it out from so much black and white thinking into more of a
Absolutely.
gray thinking. Do you think that there are any true dichotomies, whereas some there is black and white sometimes? Do you think there is a possibility of black and white being what actually is the case?
Yeah, I don't think I like it, but I think, and I think that's why unfortunately I've used the assumption that that's the way things are in such a dangerous or misinformed or misguided way, that now I've got an aversion to it, because I think, wow, that's caused a lot more suffering than I needed to have. And so I have a bit of an aversion to thinking that way. But I absolutely think there are probably things where black and white thinking is pretty fair to have. And so even though I'm constantly trying to find, okay, is there room for gray? And starting to try and operate under that way myself, or not just starting to, I think that's a fair statement, that there are going to still be some things where there is no gray.
Yeah. So you're saying...
And this is about as close to one of them as I can think of right now.
Yeah. So you're saying that having black and white thinking isn't necessarily incorrect or unreasonable.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just saying it has served me very poorly,
Yeah.
and so I am trying to, not go into a bar because there's a lot of alcohol around. If I was an alcoholic and that's the thing I was trying to do. You and I know that we can be around alcohol in moderation, and we can make choices about if we want to have another drink and another drink and another drink. But my relationship with black and white thinking, I think, has unfortunately been similar to an alcoholic's relationship with alcohol, where it's just better for them to take a big step back from it before maybe hanging out in a bar for a while, to then be able to have the practice of making the choice to not drink excessively. And for me, think black and white excessively.
Uh-huh. I think an example that I normally go to whenever I think about black and white thinking or dichotomies is a statement is either true or not true. A statement can't be true and not true at the same time. That to me would be an example of a true dichotomy.
Yeah.
A is A. Yeah.
Yeah,
A
unfortunately.
is either A or not A. It can't be A and not A at the
not
same
A.
time.
Yeah, and unfortunately, things are measured with true and false statement that scale may not apply to.
Something is either true or not true.
And some things, that's a matter of, there is no absolute. To some of the questions that are asked, is this true or false? It's unfair to ask if it's true or false, because that's not necessarily like with quantum physics, it may be that 1 and 0 is both true at the same time. And I think the nature of manifestation and the nature of focus, the nature of opinions and beliefs is starting to show us more and more of that. And for me, that's where I would have the huge area of, well, I'm pretty sure, but...
Would you say that quantum physics is required in order for something to be both A and not A at the same time?
I think there might be other mechanisms or vehicles than quantum physics, so I wouldn't rule it out as just quantum physics is required. And I think what you're asking is, if there was no quantum physics, would we then be able to say that something could be true and false at the same time? Is that what you're getting to?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. Because I hear this a lot, A, it's possible that A can be A and not A at the same time because quantum physics. And so I normally ask, well, if quantum physics wasn't available, how would that affect your confidence that A and not A at the same time being possible? You know what I mean? Like, because quantum physics it's not a sufficient enough reason for me to think that A can also be not A.
Why is that?
Because from my understanding, most physicists that study this don't understand quantum physics. And it's hard for me to accept something and have the reason quantum physics when most of us don't even understand what that process is.
Yeah, it's a pretty available cop out.
Yeah. What could you not say and support it with because quantum physics?
What are you asking?
Is there anything that we can't say is the case and give the reason because quantum physics?
If I understand what you're asking, is there any statement that we could make where we couldn't use quantum physics as the response,
to support it?
Epistemology for our answer?
Right.
Right. Yeah, many things, I think.
What would be one statement that we could not use quantum physics to support?
Something that you could use another reason to support, like intuition.
If I were to say my car that's parked out front is also not my car without using quantum physics?
Yeah, I don't know if you could be using questions like that. I think it would be more questions like about your health, the balance of your system, about your mood, your emotional state.
We can't use quantum physics to explain mood? Is that what you're saying?
I think that rather than use quantum physics to explain your mood, you'd have other modalities to explain why you can be happy and angry at the same time, or both could be true.
Okay.
Like there is no truth that you are happy right now, because it could be that you're happy and angry at the same time. So these are emotions, these are feelings, these are well-being states.
Okay, so statements surrounding emotions
And health, I think. It's like there's so much, that we don't know about health and what happens to put us in dis-ease and then back into ease, into balance, that I don't think quantum physics, you could use quantum physics to explain why cancer cells, no cancer cells, why going in one direction and the other, why suddenly healing.
We could use quantum physics to explain that.
You could, but you could also not use quantum physics and start to lean into things like intuition and intent and start to explain that, like with Neville Goddard, where you put yourself into a feeling state opposite of the state that you are now able to, using your senses, experience, and then let reality catch up to that, which quite often, with enough gumption, seems to be achievable.
I guess I'm not convinced that quantum physics is a sufficient reason to make claims that defy the laws of logic.
I think that's a fair position to be coming from. I think there are other things that could influence it that have nothing to do with quantum physics that could still be a good argument, or that could still be a valid.
Yeah. Because the reason why I ask that is because if quantum physics is always an available explanation, we could make claims, we could make whatever claim we want and say, well, because quantum physics says it's possible.
Absolutely.
I could claim that the moon was split in two last night because quantum physics. Like quantum physics is, if it is always that reason in somebody's back pocket that they could always bring out, then what that tells me is that quantum physics isn't a sufficient reason to allow the possibility of the laws of logic to be to defy them.
No, I agree. It can be abused and overused or used in situations where it's not called for. Where, well, like the person that's saying, well, Google it. I've given you 15 examples of abstract things that somewhat correlate with the point I'm trying to make, and quantum physics can be one of them. I don't think it's fair to throw out quantum physics as a response wholesale, just because some people abuse it as a response and use it where it doesn't apply. I think you just, with critical reasoning, use it where it's helpful to keep your mind open about what could actually be the answer here.
How would you go about finding out when it's okay to use quantum physics as a reason? How do you decide when it's okay to use quantum physics and when it's not?
Yeah, now you're talking about a judgment call, I think.
Yeah, for you, how do you decide when quantum physics is a sufficient explanation for something and when it's not? How do you make that judgment call?
Yeah, I suppose when I can witness that it appears that this is both true and false, that's when I would start to lean into, okay, we need to start using some kind of quantum measuring device, because here I'm seeing it seems both are true. So I think if that's coming up where it seems that both could be true, that's going to be a really good example of when to start using quantum physics or quantum explanations or quantum theory to start to get our heads around, well, how could both be true? That would be a really good time to use it, I think. I think a really bad time to use it would be, this is an odd amount of tic-tacs. No, it's an even amount of tic-tacs. And then, it's quantum
It's like
physics.
a hand waving away of the laws of logic by appealing to quantum physics.
Yeah, I think it could be certainly overused as a dismissive tool to just, well, of course it's...
And you're saying that it's okay to use it whenever something appears to be both that and not that?
Yeah, as a way to maybe try and explore further and see, well, what is going on? Is it indeed that and not that? Or is it that it's just, there's this perception that makes it really seem like it's that and not that, but in actuality, now that we've used quantum, I keep saying quantum physics, I know there's a lot more to quantum physics than just quantum physics, but being able to use that set of tools to observe a phenomenon or explore a phenomenon.
Yeah.
And get to a clearer answer. I think that would be the goal. Because I think a lot of people are okay with not knowing, and a lot of people, unfortunately, are okay with being wrong and just feeling good about what they think and believe.
Yeah, it might come up later in our survey.
I wonder.